Once upon a time, in the eastern part of Nigeria, there is a village called Umuofia. The village was well known for its peaceful atmosphere, vibrant markets, and the harmonious relationship among its people. Among the villagers was a beautiful young woman named Adaobi. She was the pride of her parents and a jewel in the eyes of the community. Adaobi was known for her intelligence, beauty, and kindness. Adaobi's parents, Chika and Ifoma, were proud of their daughter. She had just completed her education and was about to marry her childhood sweetheart, Chibuzo. Chibuzo was a tall, handsome, and hardworking young man who had recently returned from the city with plans to start a business in the village. Their love story was one that many admired. They had been friends since childhood, and their love blossomed naturally over the years. The wedding day arrived, and the entire village was buzzing with excitement. Colorful decorations adorned the pathways, and the aroma of delicious traditional meals filled the air. Adaobi's family compound was the center of activity, with women cooking, men setting up canopies, and children running around with joy. Everyone was looking forward to the union of Adaobi and Chibuzo. Adaobi woke up early that morning, her heart fluttering with excitement and nerves. Her friends and family gathered around to help her prepare for the big day. Her wedding dress was a beautiful white gown with intricate lace details, and her hair was styled elegantly with a delicate veil. As her mother helped her into the dress, Adaobi couldn't help but feel a wave of happiness and anticipation. "Adaobi, you look stunning," her mother said, tears glistening in her eyes. "Your father and I are so proud of you." "Thank you, Mama," Adaobi replied, hugging her mother tightly. "I'm so happy today." The ceremony was to be held at the village church, followed by a grand reception at the village square. Guests started arriving early, dressed in their finest attire. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, music, and the sound of traditional drums. Chibuzo stood at the altar, his heart racing with anticipation. He had been waiting for this day for as long as he could remember. His eyes sparkled with love as he imagined Adaobi walking down the aisle. As the time approached, the church was filled to capacity. Adaobi's father, Chika, stood by her side, ready to walk her down the aisle. The church doors opened, and a hush fell over the congregation as Adaobi stepped inside. She looked like an angel, and the collective gasp of admiration was audible. As she walked down the aisle, something strange happened. Adaobi suddenly stopped, her eyes wide with fear. She clutched her head and began to scream. The congregation was stunned, and a murmur of concern spread through the crowd. "Adaobi, what is it?" Chika asked, his voice filled with worry. Adaobi didn't respond. She fell to the ground, thrashing and screaming. Her beautiful gown was soon covered in dust as she writhed on the floor. The guests were in shock, and some of the women began to cry. Chibuzo rushed to her side, his heart breaking at the sight of his beloved in such distress. "Adaobi, my love, what is happening?" he pleaded, holding her hand. But Adaobi's eyes were vacant, and her screams continued. The village elders quickly gathered, and a decision was made to take her to the village healer, Nnemeka. He was known for his wisdom and knowledge of traditional medicine. Adaobi was carried to Nnemeka's hut, where he began to examine her. The healer muttered incantations and mixed herbs, but nothing seemed to calm her. Adaobi's parents were devastated, watching their daughter in such a state of agony. As night fell, Adaobi's condition worsened. She was tied to her bed to prevent her from hurting herself, and her screams echoed through the night. The entire village was in a state of mourning, as everyone loved Adaobi and couldn't understand what had caused this sudden madness. Days turned into weeks, and there was no improvement. Adaobi's once bright eyes were now filled with a vacant stare, and her beautiful face was gaunt from lack of food and rest. Chibuzo was a constant presence by her side, refusing to leave her even for a moment. He was heartbroken but determined to find a way to bring his beloved back. One evening, an old woman named Nneka visited Nnemeka's hut. Nneka was known to have a deep understanding of the spiritual world and often helped with matters beyond the physical realm. "Nnemeka," she said, "I believe Adaobi's condition is not one that can be cured with herbs. There is something more sinister at play here." Nnemeka nodded. "I have had the same thought, Nneka. But what can we do?" Nneka looked at Adaobi, her eyes filled with compassion. "We must seek the help of the spirits. There is an ancient ritual that can reveal the cause of her madness, but it is dangerous and must be performed at the sacred grove." The decision was made, and preparations for the ritual began. The sacred grove was a mystical place deep in the forest, known to be the dwelling of powerful spirits. Only a few had ever ventured there, and even fewer returned with their minds intact. On the night of the full moon, Nneka, Nnemeka, Chibuzo, and a few trusted villagers carried Adaobi to the grove. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. Nneka began the ritual, chanting ancient incantations and offering sacrifices to the spirits. As the ritual progressed, the wind picked up, and the grove was filled with an eerie light. Suddenly, Adaobi's body went still, and her eyes closed. The villagers held their breath, waiting for what would happen next. A deep voice echoed through the grove, speaking through Adaobi, "Who dares to disturb the peace of the spirits?" Nneka stepped forward. "We seek your help, great spirits. This girl has been afflicted with madness, and we do not know why." The spirit spoke again. "This girl's suffering is a result of a curse placed upon her. Many years ago, her family wronged another, and the curse was placed upon their descendants." Chika, who had accompanied them, stepped forward, his face pale. "What wrong did we commit? How can we undo this curse?" The spirit's voice was somber. "Many years ago, your family wronged a woman named Akachukwu. She was accused of witchcraft and driven from the village. Her curse upon your family was one of madness on the day of the most joyous occasion." Tears streamed down Chika's face. "How can we make amends?" The spirit replied, "The curse can only be lifted if the wrong is acknowledged, and an offering of reconciliation is made to Akachukwu's descendants. Seek them out and ask for their forgiveness." With that, the spirit departed, and Adaobi's body relaxed. She was unconscious but no longer thrashing. The villagers carried her back to the village, and Chika began the search for Akachukwu's descendants. The journey was long and arduous, but finally, they found Akachukwu's granddaughter, Amara, living in a nearby village. Chika and his family begged for her forgiveness and offered gifts of reconciliation. Amara, moved by their sincerity and the plight of Adaobi, agreed to forgive them and lifted the curse. Back in Umuofia, Adaobi began to recover. Her eyes regained their brightness, and her mind cleared. The village rejoiced as their beloved Adaobi was restored to health. Chibuzo, who had never left her side, proposed to her once again, and this time, there were no interruptions. The wedding took place in a joyful atmosphere, with the entire village celebrating the union of Adaobi and Chibuzo. The curse had been lifted, and peace was restored to Umuofia. Adaobi and Chibuzo lived happily, their love stronger than ever, and the story of the mad bride became a legend, a reminder of the power of forgiveness and the importance of justice.